And then I just by chance happened to run into Lois, and together we hitched up our wagon and began to journey around the stars, and it has really made a tremendous difference in my life. Putting things together, becoming a good bit more creative in my constructive thinking in the area that I felt I had expertise in, which was the space program. What should we be doing? I've always been a future thinking person of how we could do things better. And that's kind of brought me to the last couple of years where I've really begun to look at where it is we're going in space and trying to put forth sort of coherent thoughts about where.
When you were on the moon, you were only there for a short time, about what, 12 hours, 8 hours, something like that?
No, we landed and lifted off 21 hours later.
21
we were
hours later.
outside 2.5 hours. A very, very short period of time. Because it was an early spacecraft, it was heavier, as most things are early in the production, than the later spacecraft. We had put in more conservatism, so we only had the consumables, the oxygen supply, to stay there one day and to go outside for a short period of time. 2.5 hours was all the allotment was for.
As the lunar module was being landed, the spot where you were going to land was not working. I mean, it wasn't going to work out. Can you tell me you had what, 30 seconds extra of fuel? Is that what, 30 seconds of fuel to spare as you were landing? Is that? Can you talk about that?
Probably the initial calculation was that if everything went right, we would probably have a minute and a half, something like that. But where the computer was taking us in this supposedly very smooth area was not acceptable to Neil. He was looking outside. I was feeding him all the information I possibly could from the primary guidance computer and the abort guidance and all the systems that were necessary to support the propulsion and the landing. So occasionally I would sneak a peek out there, but I was not controlling the spacecraft.
Right.
He certainly was in directing it, and we decided to extend where we're going to smoothly fly over the undesirable spot and land on the other side. That takes a little longer, it consumes a little bit more fuel. When the light came on and Charlie Duke said 60 seconds, we're still about 100 feet up, something like that.
Yeah, 100 feet up in the air.
Well, there's no air there, but we were above the surface.
Good point, yes.
And so I was a little concerned, but I didn't want to disturb Neil's concentration. He's the one that's maneuvering through the autopilot manually through the computer to direct the jets that are taking us where we want to go. But about 30 seconds, we were about 10 feet above the ground, and I could see that we were descending and we were going to be okay. So we saw a shadow and saw the dust being blowing off to the sides, and we touched down. And I said, contact light, engine stops, and we stopped the engine and did a few cleaning up the cockpit is what pilots call it. They may make a quick post-landing check, and we make sure that we don't have to lift off immediately because Mike Collins in Columbia is going overhead, and if we have to leave quickly to catch him before he's too far gone, and then we have to wait for 2 hours until he comes around again.
Okay. 21 hours later, when it was time to fire the rocket to leave the moon, there had to have been some anxiety. Is this going to work? Because if it didn't work, there wasn't a whole lot that they could do. Was there some anxiety about whether it would start up again?
I don't think we use the term anxiety. We use the term peaked alertness.
Okay.
We're really alert to what's going on, and hopefully it's a smooth countdown and nothing comes up that interrupts, and nothing did, and we lifted off. We sort of expected at the pitch over that it might be a little disconcerting because it was a fairly rapid pitch over maneuver. But we were thrusting at a little bit less than Earth gravity, but that's about 5 times what Moon was pulling us down. So we left in a big hurry, and it was not at all disturbing the fact that we pitched over.
Oh boy!
So we started making the continued thrust, fixed thrust, no gimbals, so it was sort of a wallowing motion as the control system was sort of keeping us on course with a fixed thrust engine. Got into orbit, made our rendezvous maneuvers. That was pretty important to me, being Dr. Rendezvous.
You're the rendezvous guy, yeah.
For my training and my thesis at MIT.
Right.
So things proceeded, but like Yogi Berra says, it's never over till it's over. So there's no cheering going on until we're back on the ocean. And of course the spacecraft, unexpectedly to us, but it's a natural thing. It can do that. It turned over upside down.
Oh, it did. Okay.
Yeah. So it's getting pretty warm inside because the heat shield is not being cooled by the Pacific Ocean. And so we're hanging from the shoulder straps, bouncing around.
Upside down.
And this is not the time you want to get seasick. You just completed a great mission.
I'll bet.
Things worked out okay, though. We got on the carrier with our isolation garments and started a quarantine that lasted another 15 days or so.
Quarantine because people didn't know if you would catch any, I don't know, viruses or bacteria or whatever on the moon and bring it back to Earth. Have you ever figured out, one of the interesting things in your book is you said that for 40 years people want to come up to you and tell you, Buzz, here's where I was when you landed on the moon. Have you ever figured out why people want to tell you where they were when you landed on the moon?
Well, sure, it's natural. It's a celebration of a positive event in history, in the nation, and they felt a part of it, and their part of it. They knew where we were, so they want to just get a little closer to the event by telling us where they were, because that sticks in their mind.
Absolutely.
Exactly where they were.
I think I was 6 and Mom and Dad woke me up so my brother and I could watch it, and of course we'll never forget it. One last question. I know there's a lot of other people want to talk to you. Talk to me about the Starkey event that you're doing tomorrow. Is that with the hearing aid? Can you talk to me about that a little bit?
I have a new hearing enhancement that I'm wearing right now, so does my wife. And it helps tremendously in our ability to communicate back and forth. It's something that comes along with hearing a lot of noises. Pilots have a way of hearing a lot of noises on the ramp with jet engines screaming away. There's an event tonight that bringing a number of us together, but the big event is tomorrow night, the Starkey Gala. And it's all part of the celebration during this time of year here in Minneapolis that benefits the Hearing Foundation. Bill Austin and his people make just marvelous trips to other countries to help out children mostly who have birth defects in hearing, and to help because they don't have the technology there. So they really help out all these other places in the world in a really marvelous, very, very generous. The view was just unusual. There was just no way you could recreate it. We can tell you the different shades of gray with no color and the sort of rolling terrain. The dust there, if you can call it dust, just doesn't behave anything like here. Sand or soil the particles are very rounded here on Earth because of the wind and the water, but everything there is very sharp. It's glass. It's molten glass that has been spewed out, then fractured again many times.
Very fine.
Yeah, but it's sharp too. Yeah. And because of the sharpness, it seems to be very cohesive, and that's why you get the boot prints that you do, and that's why when you put your foot down, it just goes out and sort of lands in a semicircle. Now, I've never seen that happen on Earth with sand, soil, or anything else. But in many ways, we send humans there to make these kind of small little observations of how things behave differently.